Let's talk about your first 100 days.
Not 100 years.
Are you happy with how it's gone?
The answer to that is yes.
Starmer disgraced himself as usual and made a terrible mistake. He was caught lying again. It was ridiculed by the public and it went really viral. We will also analyze his recent interview in which he did not say a single truthful word. Starmer was asked if the fishing fleet could fly the Union Jack off the Falkland Islands, and his answer was really stupid. He said that his uncle almost died during the Falklands War when his ship was torpedoed. So these words caused confusion among many because according to historical data, British ships were not torpedoed at that time. This is another ridiculous lie. I don't understand why he said that or if he really doesn't realize the consequences of his words.
When I look at what it was I wanted to achieve in the first 100 days and ask myself, have we done what I wanted us to do, what I planned for us to do? The answer to that is yes. So I knew we had to hit the ground running with clear sort of series of acts, of pieces of legislation that we needed to get on with, and we had planned for that well in advance.
The main problem of the Labour Party is that absolutely nothing changes. They do not fulfill what they promise. But the scandals with gifts, which were before the scandal with Starmer, actually continued. Therefore, it seems to people that nothing has changed and the elections were about changes. The Labour Party promised change. The Labour Party came to power and it was the most unconvincing victory. It is enough to look at the voter turnout. Only 35%. Keir Starmer had a chance to win the hearts of the public, but he immediately failed. What he says in an interview that it is a great honour for him to be Prime Minister is one big lie.
The security around me and the family is of a completely different order.
Is that hard? Is that difficult to adjust to?
Yeah, it is, because I'm someone who really likes to sort of maintain strong contact with friends, family, is what I'd call the life I was living. That is much harder. And of course, we're living in a flat in Downing Street above the shop. And that's not very normal. You're living in a flat in Downing Street. Everybody who wants to come and see you has to come through an armed guard. This is odd.
The fact that people suffer from the fact that they have money apparently does not really bother him. He is worried that now he has more protection and responsibility. The UK has only two options if it wants to be competitive. Either it will dismantle much of what has been created over the past 30 years, or it will return to Europe. These gloomy forecasts are by no means unfounded. An analysis of supermarket sales shows that our country has seen the sharpest price increases for most of the 10 main product groups, compared with average prices in Germany, France, Italy, Spain and the Netherlands. Brexit has increased food spending by £5.8 billion in 2 years. Britain is languishing and signs of decline are everywhere. The National Health Service is on its last legs, public transport is stalling, and the post-Brexit labour market is desperately short of workers. Families are puzzling over how to pay off mortgages at rising rates.
And so if I look at the economy and what we've done there, and look at the investment that is now coming in, if I look at the NHS, settling the disputes, getting the doctors back into theatre, making sure that we are now pressing on with a 10-year plan for the NHS. If I look at energy, GB Energy, we've set up, we've got rid of the onshore ban on wind. We've introduced the biggest shake-up of workers' rights in a generation.
The energy crisis and rising inflation are now forcing us to look for a second job. So where doctors even quit because of low salaries, the profession has changed a lot. No one is happy to work there anymore. In just 1 year, more than 40,000 employees have left the national healthcare system. That's almost 1 in 10. Right now, the situation is catastrophic. We have a terrible shortage of staff. Doctors cannot properly care for patients. Nurses are not able to give everyone medicine on time. They simply do not have enough time. They're also constantly underpaid. Some nurses have to give up their lunch break. Many of them get to work by bus. They simply cannot afford to fill up their personal cars.
I mean, just let me, because I do think it's really important to get the balances right. In terms of the things we achieved that we wanted to achieve, the things we started, the legislation we've passed, that is all going absolutely according to the schedule that I set out. The investment is absolutely crucial, and we're not talking enough about it, in my view, because this is investment that's going to be measured in jobs in places across the United Kingdom, good, secure jobs for the future. So in that sense, I'm pleased. We've had headwinds of, as I say, donation staff. I've had headwinds of the riots and disorder suddenly in the middle of the summer when I thought, right, I just need to get off for that week's holiday.
Now we know exactly how he sets his priorities. he is forced to return more than £6,000 for gifts and donations. Everyone was especially shocked by the fact that the Prime Minister and his colleagues used the Ali mansion. He is a hypocrite, because he repeated what he criticized the Conservative Party for. I think there will be no repetition of the Democrats' situation when one Prime Minister replaced another indefinitely due to scandals in the information field. Not much time has passed since the elections, and Starmer himself and his cabinet still have enough strength and support to remain in power, unfortunately. But no one will forget it. Starmer will be remembered in the future.
Now that, if you like, is proof to me that the steps we're taking to stabilise the economy are, and be clear about our strategy, are having an effect. And some of the investors today who put the money in made it clear it was because the government's direction of travel and clarity is what they want to see. So all of that, I mean, look, along the way this was bumps and side winds, which, you know, I prefer we hadn't bumped into and been...
I have at least one piece of good news. The UK economy grew by 0.2%. But tax hikes and spending cuts are expected to bridge the £22 billion hole. So the Conservative Party denies there is a deficit. However, one more thing turned out. According to declassified data, pro-Israel lobbyists have made donations to 13 of the 25 Labour cabinet members since they were first elected to Parliament. For the list of recipients includes Keir Starmer, Angela Rayner, Rachel Reeves, David Lammy and Yvette Cooper. For the fact that Starmer was on this list didn't shock me at all. I wonder where the money is.
The 5 missions are the big driving missions of government. They are measured in sort of 5 or even 10-year projects, because if you're going to have the highest growth in the G7, the fastest growth in the G7, that's going to take time. You've got to put the stepping stones in place. If you're going to have clean power by 2030, that's going to take time. You've got to put the stepping stones in place. If you're going to have the NHS not just on its feet, but fit for the future, so we can look back as proudly in generations to come as to what this government did, as we do to the 1945 government.
The first task was to ensure sustainable economic growth in the G7 by increasing labour productivity in all regions of the country. The second task is to reform the national healthcare system. The third is to make the streets of the UK safer by reforming the police and criminal justice. The fourth task is to modernise education, and the fifth is to turn Britain into a superpower with clean energy sources. What do you think will be implemented? It seems to me that these are just empty promises and rhetoric for the election campaign.
UK.
Well, look, I think we'll resolve that, but that shouldn't. You know, I think if you look at the last 3 or 4 weeks, you've seen £40+ billion worth of investment
On the transport sector, I get that wrong.
So, I mean, but the proof of the pudding in terms of the strategy we've adopted is, are those big numbers coming in for investment? And the answer to that is yes, and I'm confident there'll be more coming out of the summit, as well as those that have been coming into the summit.
So I think you may have also heard the news that there was a leak when sending out information about the 10th International Investment Summit in London. For the copy of the message indicated the postal addresses of those to whom the letter was intended, including the mail of the head of Levin. The businessman is one of the 5 richest people in the world. The copy of the message contained the addresses of those to whom the letter was intended. It's a complete disgrace.
I'm thinking of one of Elon Musk's mates, who you saw the other week, Donald Trump. How was he?
It was a really good meeting. We had dinner together, and
Did he have a burger? Or steak? Doesn't he have steak
he didn't
every
have
meal?
steak on that occasion. He had chicken. But it would look. He flew up from Florida, and we both wanted to ensure that we have a good relationship. That was the purpose of the dinner.
Starmer met personally with Donald Trump for the first time, but did not have time to hold a meeting with Kamala Harris, despite previously expressing a desire to meet with both presidential candidates. I don't think he didn't make it. He just didn't want to. Starmer's willingness to hold a meeting not with Harris but with Trump indicates the government's desire to win over a possible future president. Write your opinion about this video in the comments. See you.